Back again, Ozonics Killerwinds podcast. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
Today we're talking about a little bit of everything. We're kind of going around the horn again here, but we actually just kind of had an interesting little tidbit of a discussion, and I don't really even know the legality on this, but we were talking about how, and actually in North Iowa here, we're actually getting pretty lucky. The state of Iowa, the DNR, issued antlerless tags for some counties that haven't had antlerless tags for a really long time.
Yeah.
Cerro Gordo County, Wright County, a lot of these counties in north central Iowa, usually there was a big spot on the map that had 0, 0, 0 all in red.
Yeah.
And that extended not just in northwest Iowa, but north central Iowa. And Cerro Gordo County was usually kind of right on the edge where there was no doe tags. That's just how it always was. But this year they issued 100 doe tags for a bunch of counties. Yeah. Well, the interesting thing is I was driving down the highway the other day, and just for some crazy unknown reason, I'm looking over and there's a county sign. Oh, I'm going out of Hancock County. I'm going into whatever county it was, right? Or there's the Hancock County sign. I think it was Hancock County. And I saw the sign and I was like, huh. And the question is I wonder how that works. If you had an antlerless tag for this county, and there's another county right beside it, and you're hunting on a piece of property that's right on the line.
Yeah, or it could even split the property.
Yeah, or let's just say if you go out on the highway and there's the county line sign, and you looked out in your field and you're like, heck, my tree stand lines up with that. Well, how does that work?
Yeah,
is there like a 100
buffer
yard
zone?
Yeah, is there a 100-yard grace period, grace area, right, on each side of it, where you're like, oh well, if you're in this or this. I know, even like if you look at Onyx, I don't know, maybe does it show counties?
I can't remember.
I don't know.
I don't know if I've ever.
I mean, I've looked at Google Maps and I don't think that it shows counties on the Google Maps.
Yeah.
Or if you get on your phone, you're looking on like the Apple Maps. I don't think that shows counties.
Yeah, I don't know.
So that's kind of interesting. That'll be an interesting. I don't know if anybody knows. I mean, I can't say that I've ever read anything in the regulations about if you're on a county, if there's so many feet or 100 yards on each side that it's like, hey, you're kind of in both, don't worry about it.
Yeah.
Or if it's just kind of the honor system.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
Yeah, I don't know. It'd be really interesting to look into.
Yeah.
Because it was actually a spot that we were kind of maybe looking at hunting too.
Yeah, that's literally just kind of right on the line.
Yeah.
Or it would be, part of it would definitely be in one county and part of it would definitely be in the other. But what about the middle? What about where the line is?
Yeah, exactly.
So, yeah, that's kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the other thing, if you know the answer to that,
let us know.
Yeah, because I don't know.
Give us a holler.
Yeah, if I see a DNR guy, I'll probably ask him that.
Yeah.
Or if we go to the Iowa Deer Classic next year, I'll definitely ask him that.
Yeah.
That would be kind of interesting because they have those DNR guys there and you can always ask them questions.
Yeah.
When I was at the Iowa State Fair, they have that too. They have the DNR building.
Oh, yeah.
And they've got the same thing that they have set at the Iowa Deer Classic. They have it there, and they have guys, men and women there officers that you can stop and talk to.
It's cool that they do that.
Yeah, yeah. The question that I ask every year that I never can get a good answer on, and it just seems really silly to me, is the fact that when it comes to predator hunting in Iowa, you can use night vision, you can use thermal, but you can't use red lights. And I might even be wrong on that. It may be that you can only use thermal and not night vision. Anyway, the moral of the story is that you can't use red lights. And I asked a DNR guy a couple years ago at the Iowa Deer Classic, I'm like, hey, why can't you use red lights for predator hunting? Has that ever been a thing that has been talked about? And he was pretty passionate about the idea that he's like, do you know how many people we struggle with spotlighting and during season, da-da-da? I'm like, I understand that. And he goes, well, then everybody's going to be predator hunting with red lights, looking at deer and shooting deer at night. I'm like, I understand. But the funny thing is you can spotlight in Iowa during the summertime. And you can't do it during season, but the guys spotlight all the time.
Yeah.
I'm like, okay, fine. Then make it so you can't use red lights during the deer seasons, right? Make them illegal. And then after January 10th, when everything closes up and predator hunting really swings in, then make red lights available.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, the thing I think that for a lot of passionate whitetail hunters, they would tell you, and I think we've all seen it, coyotes, predators, fox, they do a number on fawns in the spring.
Oh, yeah.
And I feel like, this comes from the fact that I have a buddy named Zach Workman from Pennsylvania that bales hay on red fox and coyotes in Pennsylvania all winter long.
Oh yeah.
With red lights. He prefers red lights. I've hunted with him, and I would prefer a red light too. The nice thing about a red light compared to thermal is with a thermal, you've got to be constantly, either scanning it on. If you have only a thermal on your gun, then you're trying to scan your gun back and forth, which is kind of tricky.
Yeah.
So a lot of guys end up getting like a one mono type thermal. They're scanning with that. Whereas if you have a red light, a lot of guys like Zach, he'll have a red light on his gun, but he also have a red light he can scan with.
Yeah.
And you can scan so fast with that.
Oh yeah.
And the minute you catch their eyes, they just look like fire. Boom, and you get them. And the other thing is the red lights are expensive, but they're not near as expensive as thermal scopes are.
Yeah.
So it's in a more affordable way to get out there night hunting. And night hunting, you can really get after coyotes.
Yeah.
Which is going to help, I would think. That coyote's not going to kill any fawns that spring if he's laying in the back of your truck.
Yeah.
So I don't know. To me, I just feel like it would be a nice thing if they would allow people to be able to use red lights.
Yeah.
But, and again, that's been years ago and it still hasn't
changed,
come through on the regulations.
Yeah.
And maybe I should do something. Maybe I should try to, write in or call somebody and see if I could help affect that change. But
start a petition.
Yeah. Yeah. I could get you and me to sign it.
Yeah.
2. Woo. Hey, Susie, sign this.
Yeah.
Hey, Tatum, my wife, sign this. Yeah. But I don't know. I think that would be a thing that people really enjoy. I love red light hunting in Pennsylvania. It's really fun.
Mm-hmm.
And again, man, it's a great way to be able to shoot some coyotes. I would love to do more night hunting, but I just can't justify the cost of buying a thermal scope.
Yeah. One of my friends, well, he's the guy that hunts the neighboring property.
Yeah.
I mean, he is like obsessed with coyote hunting now.
Yep.
He's like, I'd rather do that than deer hunt.
Yeah.
He loves it.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, my brother-in-law just got a custom rifle built that is going to be a coyote killing machine.
Oh yeah.
And even me, like I have an AR that I have kind of been piecing together. Not piecing the gun together. I bought the gun, but I bought a suppressor for it, and and I've got the scope for it, and I just need to get the rings.
Yeah.
And again, nice thing too is we're kind of past not being able to find ammunition. Now you can go to Shields and you can buy
whatever you need.
The Hornady Superformance stuff that was like really hard to find. Now it's there.
Yeah.
And you don't have to just try to find a buddy that can custom load them for you.
Yeah, exactly.
You know what I mean? But
yeah.
Anyway, that's not what we're here to talk about. But like I said, we're going around the horn today.
Yeah.
All right, next thing.
Bless you.
I didn't sneeze.
Whatever.
So we kind of actually did a fun little thing yesterday. And I don't even know how this actually came up. I think it came up because I had a trail camera that had just I had it on a spot last year that there was cows and the cows knocked it down. Well, then I think the cows like licked it and then like stepped on it.
Destroyed it basically.
And then like laid on it.
Yeah. Everything.
Yeah. So it was pretty ripped up. So I thought, I'll do what I can. So I tried to take it all apart, clean it all up. Well, in the process of doing that, when I put it back together, something happened in the focus and it just doesn't focus.
Yeah.
It's in focus at like a foot.
Yeah, but after that, it's
a little blurry.
Super blurry.
Yeah. So, of course, being how I am, like, I'll just run it anyway, which you can go, oh, that's a deer.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a coyote. Oh, that's a raccoon. That's a pheasant. That's a turkey. But you can't like really make it all out.
What it is, yeah.
So I ran it for a year like that. And then this year I thought, I'll do that, this summer. Well, it just was looking like terrible. So I thought, hey, I've got an old Moultrie camera, just a regular SD card, non-cellular.
Old school.
Yeah, trail cam. I'm like, let's put that out there. And it was actually kind of fun. It was interesting how it made us feel through the entire process.
I know.
I had kind of lost that feeling.
Yeah, it was super fun.
Lost the loving feeling, like Top Gun.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, you had never seen Top Gun.
I think I might have actually. I don't know if I've seen it from start to finish, but
okay. Anyway, but yeah. There's this really good song on there. We'll play that now. Bing. Tom Cruise
copywritten
in a bar. Fine. I'm not going to sing it. Yeah. Anyway, but yeah, so we set out a regular trail camera, and mistake we made, we let it cook a little too long.
Yeah.
I kind of had forgotten about how long you can let them cook, and being this is a camera from seriously probably close to 10 years ago, battery life wasn't quite as good. And even the battery life wasn't good, just didn't have as many batteries in it.
Yeah.
It had what, 2, 4, 6, 8. Yeah, instead of like 12.
Yeah, it was funny. I remember when we hung it up, we're like, yeah, we'll be back here in 2 weeks to check it. It was literally like 2 months.
Yeah, it turned into, we set it in mid-June.
Yeah.
And then we're like, oh, we'll come back a couple weeks. And then it just didn't work out. And then we're like, oh, let's just let it cook a little longer.
Yeah.
Then it was like mid-July. Then it was first part of August. We're like, oh, we'll just let it go.
Yeah.
And we let it go a couple weeks too long because it went from like mid-June to like August 9th.
Yeah. Yep.
So we missed a couple weeks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of fun. We, we've had a really, really dry summer, and that's a spot where you can kind of sneak along the field edge with the truck. So we just drove right down in there like we did when we set that stand.
Yeah.
And marched in there, and yeah, it was just so funny. Like I think we both, and much like we just said, it was such a different feeling.
Oh yeah.
And it's like, I think we both were like, man, that's exactly how it used to feel when you would go in there, you have your extra card.
Yeah.
Like we said in the truck, like before little card readers, I just had to take the card home.
Yeah.
And then check it on my computer. You know what I mean? And then they got the little card readers that you could actually read in your phone. So then you could like pull the card and be looking at it in the stand.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was kind of fun. We had like 1,600 pictures on there. It was a 3-picture burst.
Yeah.
So there was like basically 800 or
500.
500 basic,
500 something.
Basic flashes.
Yeah.
And I think what we learned is that in that spot right now, or basically in June, July, that is a doe fawn.
Oh my gosh.
Like
it was wild.
Living room.
Yeah. There would be there was a doe and 2 fawns in there like every single day.
Yes.
Like throughout the day.
Yeah,
like
a mature doe with 2 fawns, and there was another doe with a fawn.
Yeah.
And maybe it was just 2 does with twins and a single.
Yeah.
But man, they were in there a lot.
Yeah. And it is kind of what we expected a little bit. I mean, I think we both expected to have more bucks on there, but I mean, we did expect deer to be bedding in that thicket where the cameras are kind of right up against. And I think that really showed us. I mean, when you have daytime movement like that in the middle of summer, I think that you're close to bedding.
Well, yeah. And I think the thing I think even like when we walked in there yesterday, there's this itty bitty little trickle of a creek, that you have to step over. And we stepped over that and kind of just started to get in there. There's the bedding, and then there's the tree line. There's this little corridor right there.
Yeah.
And we didn't even get hardly in there, and deer just blew
Oh my gosh,
up.
It was crazy.
Oh yeah,
there was deer running everywhere.
Oh yeah, they were not happy.
Yeah, it was cool.
Way tall. Dude, that was Velvet Hammer for sure. We just jumped like 47 deer. Dude, did you hear that?
It was just crashing everywhere.
I could hear tides going through the grass for sure.
Sounded heavy.
It sounded heavy. It sounded big. Yeah, I mean, they were getting out of there so fast, they didn't even have time to blow. They were just like, see you later.
Yeah, and you could just hear them going.
Yeah, they were flying everywhere.
It was pretty funny.
That was kind of funny. But I think the other thing, it's interesting, like hearing those deer in there, and then when we check the cameras and we're seeing those does, and just kind of the way that whole thing lays out, it kind of feels like a spot that when the rut starts to roll
100%.
And with that little creek behind there, and then the river down the way, and there's the CRP and the cornfield and the bedding area, it just feels like a buck is going to come cruising through there. He's going to walk through that thicket. He's going to check it all.
Yep.
He's going to make a scrape, and then all of a sudden the doe that's in there, she's going to come over here. She's going to do her thing. He's going to come back, and it just feels like rut activity.
It's like the typical kind of cruising spot. I feel like.
Yeah.
Just the way that the thicket goes up against the wood line, like it's pretty perfect, I think, for the rut. Or if you want to go in there and kill a doe early season.
Yeah.
I mean.
Well, and the other thing I kept thinking about too when we were standing there looking at that tree stand is, man, that feels like a fun spot to go in and rattle.
Oh yeah.
Because if there's a buck in remote vicinity, and even as you look back to the west, it kind of goes up this little rise, like CRP that's on the top.
CRP, yep. Where I guarantee you there's deer bedding in there like crazy too.
Well, yeah, and I mean, the thing is like if you were down in there and you crack the horns together, you think a buck that's just anywhere near there, and especially with that thicket, like it just makes sense.
Yeah.
Like that a couple bucks that could just be cruising through might find each other and go, hey,
Yeah.
wait a second. And then they do their thing. And then other bucks just like, hey, let's go check that out.
Yeah.
It just seems like.
Yeah. It's kind of funny too. I mean, it was like that during turkey season too. Like when we were sitting on the opposite side of the field, you just look down and thinking all of a sudden, oh, there's a deer. Then it'd be gone. Then, oh, there's another one.
Yeah, it just
like
popped up.
They were just coming in and out of their bed, just getting up and stretching their legs and stuff. And I think that's exactly what the pictures were telling us.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yep. Yeah. But yeah, it was kind of interesting. Like I said, we shouldn't have let it cook so long.
yeah.
But and then even as we got into the second half of July, first part of August there, we did start to see a few more bucks on camera.
Yeah.
It definitely set, which is really indicative of why a lot of guys like Zach Rinn. Zach Rinn doesn't set his cameras out. I mean, I keep my cameras out because it's really fun.
Yeah.
And Jetla and I like to look at them a lot. But
Yeah.
a lot of guys don't set their cameras out till mid-July.
Yeah.
Which you see why. I mean, we were looking at a lot of does.
A lot of does, yeah.
And some turks and a few coyotes, but you just never know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But no, yeah, like you were saying earlier, it was super fun. It felt like it just was fun, just having that anticipation. And of course, I forgot my laptop, so we had to wait till we got all the way back to the office.
All the way back to the office.
Yeah, so the entire time we were just giddy.
Yeah, you're like, got the card, and you're like, oh, baby, here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it was cool. Felt like the old days.
Yeah. Well, it'd be interesting to see what's going to happen in the next couple of years, even in the state of Iowa. I wish I had it in front of me, but the state of Iowa sent a survey out that I got in the mail that had a lot of different questions on there, and they had the same question kind of in a little bit of a different way a few different times, but it was all about cellular trail cameras and it was all about crossbows. And it was like,
interesting. Yeah.
And like you've seen some regulations change across the U.S. with cellular cameras.
Yep.
Can they be used? Can they not be used? Can they only be used during the off season, not during in season?
Yeah.
Does it give you an unfair advantage? Ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
Yeah, it's a super interesting topic. I think that's a topic that a guy could go on and on for hours about, just talking about it.
Oh man, yeah.
It's pretty wild.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I think for me, and again, I don't want to go down that rabbit hole too far, but from my perspective, and even when it comes to ozonics, because there's sometimes we'll get people that'll walk up at the consumer shows and be like, I have a moral or ethical dilemma with ozonics.
Yeah.
I think it gives you too much of an advantage. I think it's, I have buddies that use it and they make it sound like it almost works too well.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, do I think ozonics works? Yeah, 100% it absolutely works. But it's like the movie Anchorman. It's not like 60% of the time it works every time. It doesn't work every time.
Yeah.
Right? Like if I have 10 encounters with a deer, do I get away with it 8 out of 10 times? Yeah, I do. But there's still those 2 times where it doesn't work.
Exactly.
Sometimes it's 7 out of 10.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's 8 out of 10, right?
Yeah.
There's sometimes that just some days or whatever, that's the way it works. Like a deer still gets you.
Yeah.
So do I think that ozonics is an unfair advantage? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Like, do I think that cellular trail cameras are an unfair advantage? My thing that I say about that to people at the shows or over the phone about ozonics, and I would say this about cell cams too, is the sport of hunting, bow hunting, gun hunting, whatever it is, whatever you're into, it's constantly evolving, right? Since Native Americans were napping out, arrowheads,
Yep.
and then they were tying them onto a cedar shaft and, and building a self bow. And then it came along longbows and recurves and compounds and that's just bow hunting. Look at rifles, right?
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
All this, how it's just, I think the sport is constantly evolving.
Yeah.
And I don't think that you're ever going to be able to stop it.
No. Yeah.
Do we have a responsibility to be careful to make sure that there is a moral and ethical line that we have to not cross? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's up to the states to decide, which I think they do.
Yeah. Well, and one thing that I always go back to is like, ozonics gives you a great advantage. Yeah, trail cameras gives you a better, or cell cameras give you a better advantage. But like, you still have to do a lot of things right when you're in the stand and in the moment to, make it happen.
Yes.
You still have to get your bow drawn. You still have to make a good shot. Like there's still a lot that has to go right in order to, harvest that deer. So it's like, yeah, it gives you an advantage, but it doesn't guarantee you really anything.
Yeah.
Still.
Well, I think that's a great segue into the other part of what we kind of want to talk about today. And even like that farm that we were just describing that we checked this, regular traditional camera on, I think the thing after we had the discussion about that Pennsylvania deer and forest study is I feel like that really helped me, just reminded me that trail cameras are only really watching a very, very, very small section of your piece that you're hunting. And I even talked about, we talked about doing an exercise, which we didn't do, but it would be really interesting to do. And I would challenge anybody listening to this to kind of think about this. If you were to take a Google Maps image or an Onyx image, just a black and white, and print that out high level that could show your entire property.
Yeah.
And then you set out a few different markers, basically light colored to dark colored, from a yellow, to a dark red, or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And if you were to, light yellow means the amount of time that you spend viewing that part of the property.
Yep.
Dark red, the section that you view all the time. Well, obviously where your trail camera is going to be dark red.
Yep.
Right. And then, that back section off the road down at the bottom of that hill by the river that you can't see, that's going to be very, very light yellow.
Yeah.
I think for me, man, it's funny. I would have some red, but it would be a 10-yard wide cone going about 30 yards out.
Yeah.
40 yards out, maybe if it's on a field edge where there's nothing.
Yeah.
And that would be really dark red. But the majority of my properties that I hunt are going to be, it's just going to be light yellow all over.
Yeah.
Do I drive by? Do I spend time out there, like driving by in the evenings? Yeah, but not a ton.
Yeah, exactly.
And so I think that you've had that same experience this fall, not this fall, this summer.
Yeah.
You had some trail cameras out. You had a couple bucks on camera. All of a sudden, you're like, "Oh, they're not there." Like, well, are they there?
Yeah.
So then you go out and you put yourself in a position to watch a big bean field or CRP field and spend some time velvet scouting. And all of a sudden, it's going from more of a light yellow to maybe an orange.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, you're like, "Oh, there they are."
Yeah.
Trail cams aren't always telling you the entire story. And sometimes it's just putting eyeballs on a field.
Yeah.
And the harder you work, the luckier you get.
Yeah, exactly.
And the more time you spend staring at something, the more you're going to learn about it.
Yeah.
And I think that's very, very true with deer hunting.
Yeah, exactly. And like Cole was saying, we put cameras out probably pretty earlier than normal, just with me being down here in Iowa when I was up at home. But one day I'm like, I don't know when I'll be back. I'll just throw them out. And right away we were getting pictures of a couple nice bucks, but it was early. And, they were all together pretty much every time we got pictures of them. And then they all of a sudden it just shut off.
Yep.
Like they just weren't there. I'm like, well, what the heck? Well, and then I kind of started thinking about our conversation we had with Dwayne Diefenbach.
Yep.
I'm like, well, if they're there right now, they got to be somewhere. And so then, I don't know, it was recent. It was only probably 2 or 3 weeks ago. I went home one night and I'm like, well, I'm just going to go watch over this field just to see what's there. And then sure enough, 2 just studs. I mean, really nice deer. And they were the bucks that we had on camera earlier. I'm like, well, holy crap, there they are right in front of my face. So then we went and put some cameras up. And that night we had pictures of all 3 of our shooter bucks that night. It's like, okay, well, now we know where we are. And it just goes to show like cameras you cannot only rely on cameras. And it's like, if you can see just a small chunk of your property or even your neighbor's property, and you can go and just, get some eyes on it, that little bit of intel can mean so much. Right. It can be huge for you. And so, it's been pretty cool because, like, another thing we did different this year is we just kind of thought about where we're going to put our cameras more, and we kind of strategically put them and spread them out a little bit better. And now it kind of seems like these deer are starting to spread out a little bit.
Yeah.
But they're on...
Well, it's not that they're spreading out. It's just that you're just realizing that they move and their home range is farther
Exactly.
than you realized.
Exactly.
You felt like you had cameras in this little spot, and you're like, oh, this is where they live. And then all of a sudden, you put a camera over here, and you're like, well, he's on the opposite of the farm. Well, that's just where he ends up going.
Exactly.
Depending on the wind, depending on if there's water, depending on, you know, what maybe pressure moved him over there that day.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, normally we kind of have our cameras in kind of one spot that we typically hunt more.
Yep.
But this year we could just kind of spread them out. Now it's just it's painting a way bigger picture in my mind of, okay, this is what they're doing.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's just, if you take some time to think about it, you know, it can go a long way, I think.
Yeah.
And
I'll tell you what, I have that tendency in the fall too, where with my cameras, I'll put them where I want to be hunting. And then all of a sudden I'm like, like there was a couple years ago, it was kind of funny. I caught myself. I had like three cameras, like right on this one tree line, like pretty close.
Yeah.
I'm like, geez, what am I doing?
Yeah.
Like I've got all this whole river over here with this big bean field. I'm like, I need to get a camera over there.
Yeah.
Like I just need to spread some stuff out. Like,
exactly.
I need to put a camera up over there. It's not that I know even though I may not hunt it, but there's deer in there.
Yeah.
And now I kind of feel like I do have things a bit more spread out. And then there's going to come a time here, you know, when we get back from these trips that we're going to be doing here, we get back in mid-September, you know, let's move some stuff around.
Yeah, exactly.
It's going to start to change.
Yeah. A big thing for us is like, once the corn and the crops come off, it's like, okay, now it's time to start thinking, okay, now where are these bucks maybe going to be cruising rather than just hanging out in the evening and, you know, feeding.
Yeah.
And that's kind of that's one thing that we did last year actually is we moved stuff probably mid-October and it really helped us too. I mean, I wasn't hunting, but yeah, so I'm excited to do that this year too. Cause it's just like, it just pays to move stuff around.
Yeah.
You just get such a better idea of what's actually going on up there. But yeah, no, it's been really fun. I don't think we've ever had deer this big on camera.
Well, that's going to be the funny thing. It's so funny because, dude, like, you're so excited to be an Iowa resident. And I don't blame you, you know. But, you know, I'd be really interested to see how much Iowa deer hunting you do when you've got deer like that on camera. Because the funny thing is if those deer were on camera in Iowa, you'd be like, Iowa giant, baby. You'd be like, that's what I came to Iowa for. And it's like, that's kind of sometimes the connotation, right? It's you know, that you think the grass is greener on the other side, and you get to the other side and you're walking in the same stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so I think if I were you and you've got deer like that on camera, don't
leave deer to find deer.
Yeah. And that's the funny thing too, you know, like I go around with my little boy Jet. I think that's probably the thing that I enjoy most. And we've talked about this before about cell cams is he's looking at the cameras every single day.
Yeah.
I mean, he's looking at them every day. There's not a day that goes by that he's not on the cameras.
Yeah.
Dad, can I see your phone? Knows my password. You know? But, you know, this is like last week he was looking at the cameras. He's like, it's just does, you know, there's just does. And I'm like, buddy, they're out there, you know, and he's like, oh, you know, what do you mean? I'm like, just because the bucks aren't walking by doesn't mean they're not there.
Yeah.
You know, and I've talked about this before and I mentioned him a lot, but my brother-in-law, Justin, he doesn't run a single trail camera.
Yeah.
He doesn't run a single camera.
Yeah.
And guess what? He shoots great deer every year with a recurve.
Yeah.
Because like when it gets to be mid-October and then late October and then November, that is when whitetail deer rut.
Yeah.
And so he just is like, I mean, I don't really need to like know what's out there. Like I know what I would like to try to shoot.
Yeah.
And I wait for a mature deer and I put myself out there during the rut.
Yeah.
And I try to make the right decisions, and for some reason deer walk by.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, like he just doesn't like, I mean, I think he likes hearing about the trail cameras, and I think he was like logging into my account showing his boys that.
Yeah.
But he doesn't have trail cameras.
No, yeah, exactly.
You know, and there's some guys I think there's a lot more guys like that than you think.
Yeah.
That just like, hey man, I'm just gonna put myself in the woods.
Yeah.
When the time's right.
Yep, exactly.
So yeah, I think, and I even say this for ourselves, like you put stock in your trail cameras, but don't put too much stock in your trail cameras.
Well, and even on, so I went and hung a set on Sunday night and on the field where I've been seeing them and getting a bunch of pictures of them. And like the one thing that kind of worries me about our farm constantly is like, okay, there's not a lot of does that live on our farm. So it kind of gets tough during the rut. Well, so I go in there and I get to the spot where I want to hang the set, and it's a it's a fence line. One side is an alfalfa field. One side is like tall kind of CRP. It's like kind of in a hollow or whatever. And I get to the tree and I'm just about ready to hang the first stick. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh my gosh, there's deer right there. There was like 3 or 4 does just cruising right through the middle of it. I haven't had pictures of a group of 3 does like ever. Mm-hmm. It's like, once again, it's like they're there.
Yeah.
They're just not walking by the trail camera. It's like, you just got to have trust in it, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But no, yeah, you absolutely do. And yeah. And I think that's one thing about whitetail deer in general, you know, and I think we talked about this too a while back about just how, you know, when you look at some species around North America, they don't live everywhere.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Right.
You know, like elk. Elk don't live in Iowa like they used to a long, long time ago, but now, you know, they live in the mountains.
Yeah.
You know, and so you can start to really narrow down like where elk are going to be. Like,
yeah.
Sheep are no different. Like you're not going to find sheep, you know, grazing down in a field, right? They're going to be way high up in the mountains. And then even in just the mountains, that's not only that it. They're going to be even more particularly in very, very high mountains, right? Like cliffy mountains, lots of rock.
Yeah.
So you can narrow down where you're going to find sheep. The thing about whitetail is they live everywhere.
Yeah.
What do they need? I mean, they can literally live along an interstate.
Well, I mean,
They need switchgrass, they need a little bit of water, and they need some food.
yeah.
They can live anywhere.
Yeah.
I mean, and I think that there's whitetails in all lower 48 states, I think.
Yeah. I'm not 100% sure on.
Man, I would think.
Yeah.
trying
I
to
mean,
think
it certainly seems like it.
I'm trying to think of a state like the Northwest, like Seattle, maybe, or like Seattle's not a state, but Washington, Oregon.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, I know.
Seems like there would be probably.
You think, man? I think
Yeah.
there's a deer species in every all lower
sure.
48
Yeah,
for sure.
definitely.
I mean, there's a deer species in all 50 really, because there's Sitka blacktail and there's axis deer and
In Hawaii.
you know what I mean. So, but yeah, I mean, there's whitetails can live everywhere,
Yeah.
and you know, just because you're not getting those does on camera doesn't mean there's not does there. I mean, there's does there.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's
exactly.
does there.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I think the other thing we were going to talk about today is, and just kind of along these same lines is, you know, the idea of now you see them, now you don't.
Yeah.
I think that's the other thing, that the other part of the process where a lot of guys are going to start going through is now you see them and then all of a sudden you're just not.
Yeah.
We're a couple weeks away. It's end of August here. Bucks are going to start shedding.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I've got bucks on camera that, like I showed you that one the other day. I'm like, does he look shed?
Yeah.
It was a night picture, so it's kind of hard to tell. It's just black and white. But I'm like zooming in on. I'm like, man, he looks like those tips are pretty pointy.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah,
I'm like,
yeah.
if he's not shed, his velvet is just like, he's just got to scratch it off.
Yeah.
But as soon as that velvet sheds, a lot of these deer, they take on a whole different personality.
Oh, exactly.
They go into this transition, and it seems like some deer stick with that summer pattern, and like what you guys do in Wisconsin, you can get deer on that summer pattern, and you can really take advantage of that when season opens mid-September.
Yeah.
Then there's other deer that all of a sudden they shed their velvet, and you're just like, he just disappears.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, well, you definitely aren't going to get daylight photos of him anymore, you know?
Yeah.
And all of a sudden you don't even get him at night. You're like, well, where'd you go?
Yeah.
Like I've got cameras spread out and you're just not popping up anywhere.
Yeah.
That's just what they do.
Right.
That's just part of the deal.
No, yeah, definitely. Even like that first night that Dad hung those cameras on that alfalfa field and we got all those pictures, it was like a good couple days till we got them again.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, it's so easy to get in that mindset where it's like, oh, they're gone. They just were walking by that one night. It's like, you got to realize that deer don't have boundaries.
Yeah.
There is hundreds of thousands of acres that these deer can just go.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
It's like, you just got to, I don't know, you got to have a better mindset about it. But
well, yeah, I think that Dwayne Diefenbach talked a lot about home range, you know, and natural boundaries of a river or a road. You know, power line cut out, you know what I mean? Or whatever, you know what I mean? Like, and I know for me, I've kind of looked at spots a little bit more like that too. You know, okay, I know how, and again, being from Iowa, like I know what, you know, a 640 looks like square mile section. Okay. That's 640 acres. Okay. I know what an 80 acre looks like. And you think about, you know, okay, how big is a deer's home range? You start to think about that. And then you can start to kind of go, okay, I think roughly he's probably living around about in here.
yeah.
You know, does that make sense?
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Yeah.
but yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, man. Like I said, it's getting to be a really exciting time of year. I mean, even for us, like we're sitting here today, this time tomorrow, we'll be halfway to Idaho.
Yeah.
We're going elk hunting. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just everything really starts to roll.
Yep.
By the time we get back, Wisconsin will be open for you, and and then just right after that, youth season opens for Jet and for my nephews. And so, and I think even Bobo talks about wanting to try to go out and shoot a deer. Maybe I keep trying to talk her into it. She says they're too pretty, but yeah, it's just kind of crazy. Everything starts rolling.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's a fun time of year.
Yep.
It's just funny how like the whole feeling of getting pictures and stuff starts to change.
Yeah.
Because like right away you're like, oh yeah, there's a nice buck, and then now it's like, okay, he's still there.
Yeah.
Like, this could be fun. Here we go.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting excited for sure.
Yeah.
It's gonna be a good year. And I got really excited yesterday when we were.
Oh, yeah. So yesterday when we went out and we just did this we filmed going out there and checking that trail camera and stuff like that. But I had another camera just right down the way from there that was just like not working. All of a sudden it just stopped. And I still can't figure out. I think it was raccoons. I think
It had to have been.
Yeah,
I don't know what else it would have been really.
They went up there and just somehow pulled it down.
Yeah.
But yeah, we walked down into this spot, and where I had a camera, cell cam, and a solar panel, and none of it was working. I'm like, And so yeah, sure enough, the coons knocked it down. We were kind of walking down along this little dried up creek bed down in there, and there's a bean field down in there, and a bean field to the west, cornfield to the east. And I just got far enough, like where I could see the bean field. I was kind of looking ahead, and you were a little bit behind me. I'm looking ahead, and dude, all of a sudden I just see he obviously heard us.
Yeah.
I don't even know which way the wind was out of. I didn't even check.
Yeah.
But anyway. And I'm just kind of looking on the bean field, just kind of like eyeing it quick. And there was just 20 yards of the bean field that was shaded on the north end or south end of it. And all of a sudden I just see these horns just up and turn and go like this. And then he just stood up, and it was a nice buck.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And he was
really
like,
good.
Yeah. And
I thought it looked like a stud.
Yeah. He was Oscar Mikan.
Yeah.
So he was high stepping across the bean field. Well, then of course, I'm like, okay, let's see what else stands up. Well, then sure enough, there was another buck.
Nice buck.
He stood up and he looks and he's like, what are you running from? Well, I guess I got to run.
Yeah.
And the buck that we saw first, he had his tail up first, but then he just put his tail down and he just kind of was bounding off.
Yeah.
And that other buck, he looked just like, what?
And kind of stood there for a little bit.
Yeah. And then he just kind of like trotted off.
Yeah.
But yeah, they were both good looking bucks.
Really good looking bucks, I thought.
Yeah. And it's just, you're just like, dang.
Yeah.
So, and it was funny how that buck had positioned himself right into the shade.
Yep, exactly.
He was just far enough into that shade.
Yep.
He was right on the edge of that in the shade.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's so funny.
Yeah, it was cool to see him.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah, it is really fun.
But
yeah, it's all going to start up here soon.
I know, it's crazy.
Well, even before that, like I said, obviously elk hunting, a lot of western states, a lot of guys have been antelope hunting. Like Colorado's open the 15th. I think this next week, Kentucky, that opens up.
Yep.
A lot of guys, it's right around like the September Labor Day.
Yep. Well, and I believe it's Tennessee. They had their August or their velvet season open. Okay. Which was last weekend, I believe.
Okay.
So there's been guys hunting down there, and
I guess I have seen that on Instagram. If you guys sitting in ground blinds, sweating.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep. It's pretty close to saying it's here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is cool. I mean, yeah. I mean, like you're saying, like once we get back from these elk trips and stuff, it's like, man, it's gonna be go time.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, I'm assuming the deer that we saw yesterday, I mean, those got to be the ones that you had on camera, right?
I don't know. I was thinking about that because, like I said, I've got a big, nice mainframe 10.
Yep.
And then there's another buck that's like a nice 8.
Same kind of looking deer.
Yep. And then there was one that has a split on his G2 on his left side, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, I kind of thought that when I saw him, I was like, dang, it kind of looks like that big 10.
Yeah.
And he was good size.
Yeah, he looked really good, I thought.
Yeah. And I mean, when they're running away.
Yeah, they always look way bigger. But
yeah, they look
still, though,
I mean. But yeah, he didn't look like a dink.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were both in velvet. I mean, you could definitely clearly see their velvet.
Yeah. I haven't had any that have been out of velvet yet. I know Uncle Zip had one scrub buck that was completely hard horned.
Oh, really?
100%. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yep. Just a little guy, but
yeah.
But yeah, it'll be funny to be by the time we're back.
Oh,
everything will be.
Well, that was part of what I was doing yesterday. I was like that traditional camera. I knew those batteries were going to be either dead or close to dead.
Yeah.
And then just make sure everything was good to go for a bit here.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just not going to be around.
Yeah, I did the same thing last weekend. Swapped out a bunch of
And
batteries. Granted, Dad's at home; he can go switch them. But I had that same mindset.
Yeah, and that's my problem is I don't have anybody that I could be like, hey, go.
Yeah.
Switch out some batteries. Switch out some batteries. If Jet did that, we'd never see him again.
Yeah. 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 I'm super curious the one buck that showed back up in one of the bigger ones that we've seen. He's been on camera for 3 years now. It's our 3rd year, and we called him Toothpick.
You guys and your
I'm
sorry, dude. Your guys' buck names are just
it's hilarious. It's so fun. Toothy.
Toothy.
The first year we had him, by the end of the year, he was just cleaned off.
Oh, really?
Oh yeah. He was just totally broke off. Then last year, the first picture I had of him hard horned, he was already broke.
Well, dude, and we were talking about that too when we went out hunting the other day. Is I don't know what it is. I mean, obviously they're fighting, right?
Yeah.
But man, I have a lot of bucks down in there that are broke.
Yeah.
Just broke.
Yeah.
Like I have a lot of antlerless tags. Well, you can shoot spikes.
Yeah.
Dude, I'll have broke spikes. That'll just have one spike, look like a unicorn. It's like, what?
Yeah.
How did you break that off?
Yeah.
And they'll be broke like right at the base.
Oh yeah.
It's just like, dang, bro. Or like I said, they'll just be, and they'll just, they'll just be broken. They'll just have just the main beam and that's it.
Yeah.
It's like, geez, man.
Yeah, well, sometimes I almost kind of think too. It's almost like once they start shedding that velvet, like it just gets uncomfortable for them. And I don't know if maybe they're just raking on every single thing they can find, and maybe that might bust it off or something. But yeah, it's just funny that's 2 years in a row where he was broke off really early. I'm curious to see what he does this year. But yeah, it'll be fun to watch.
All right, well, I think that's good to go. I think we wrap it up.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that was a good combo.
All right. Yeah, like you said, if you're out there, like I said, if you got some old trail cameras sitting in a drawer, don't be afraid to put them out.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
You actually you'll probably have the same feeling we did when you're out there setting them and when you're thinking about them, when you're checking them.
Yep.
It's kind of exciting.
Feels like Christmas a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah. It's always good to have a little bit of surprise that way.
Yeah.
And like I said, and if you're not getting deer on camera, don't sweat it. You know what I mean? They're there.
Yeah.
They're there. So. But all right, well, another one of the books, Ozonics Killerwinds podcast. I'm Cole Tanner.
I'm Nick Simon.
Thanks for listening. Get out there.
See you next week.
See you when I see you.
Yep. Peace.
Done.